Everybody good?
Good.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in tonight. Appreciate it. Good to see everybody. Admittedly, I've been pretty slack on the young entrepreneurs community on our website there. So if you've been on there, appreciate you being on there. I've just been swamped with other platforms. So, however, with that being said, you know how to get a hold of me. If you need something, reach out. I'm here for you. Just because I'm not on the community the last, I don't know, 5 days or so doesn't mean I'm not available to you. So please keep that in mind. Rachel, got your books in the mail. Thank you for that. If you weren't on the call last week, and if you didn't hear the podcast that I published today, I talked a little bit about Rachel's book and what a great job she did on that. And for me, it's going to become a resource. That's why I'm grateful that she sent it, because there's some materials in there that I want to refer back to. And she just did a great job mapping things out. And, I encourage you all to grab the book when it's available. Rachel, real quick, I know that you said not till October, but I saw on your website or through your newsletter that it's live now. So is your book live now, or what do we got?
The advanced reader copy is live, but forewarning, it's the uncorrected version. So if you could just wait until October when the final proofed version goes up, that would be fantastic. I will send all of you a note once it's live, and you can go grab it on Amazon. So just sit tight. Come soon.
Okay. I was just anxious. That's all. I'll spread the word. Anyways. All right. So tonight's topic, I'm going to thank Alex Hermosi, not necessarily for the topic, but for the format of my text. And by the way, if you haven't checked in with Alex Hermosi and his, it's called 100 million leads, $100 million in leads. If you haven't checked in with that book, I would highly encourage you to check it out. It's probably free to get it online. Go to his websites, his podcasts, etc. I know his podcast, he actually reads the whole book through by chapter, so it's worth listening to. I love his format. I love how he maps out lead magnets and then leads, and then how to make a sale and how to continue growing your business. So I stole a little bit of his format in our teaser this morning about what tonight's show is going to be about. There actually was a different topic, but I wanted to go down this road, and that was 7 ways to make 10 grand a month or more. And clearly, I think it's resonating. Everybody's looking at, okay, how do we make some money? So hopefully you brought something to write with and your willingness to do the work, because I'd love to see your outcomes. And, who doesn't want to make more money? I always go through waves where I get comfy. I've got good clients. I'm enjoying my spare time with my kids. And then once in a while, I look at my savings account or I look at something I want. It's like, maybe I should work a little bit harder and produce a little bit more income to do that thing or save that thing or donate more, whatever that looks like. And I'm in that season right now. So I'm digging to find ways to look for opportunity. And that's what made me come up with the topic tonight. And really what this is going to serve as is some reminders. I'm not going to say anything that's unfamiliar tonight, because you have it in you. You've been told, it's been shared with you, but I've formatted it in a way that it'll give you some discipline that you will be able to achieve what you're looking to achieve. Okay. So number 1, set the goal. And when I say set the goal, I want you to write down the dollar amount. Is it 10 grand? Is it 12? Is it 15? Is it 20? I like 10 grand because I feel like in today's economy and where everything's at, it's a very palatable number to make per month on top of what you're doing. Okay. It's a very palatable number. It's not out of reach for anybody on this call, but it's going to require some work. So the first thing I want you to do is write down what your number is. If it's 20 grand, great, write that number down. The second part of that is going to require a little bit more thought, but I want you to write your why. Why do you want to make that extra income or that dollar amount? It's really important to write your why, because it's going to justify the efforts, steps 2 through 7. Okay. And maybe you're making 6 grand a month now and you want it to be 10. So your gap is 4 grand. I want to know your why for that extra reason. I don't mean literally, but I want you to write down, what is your why for producing that gap, or just a straight new 10 grand? Okay. My why is always about my family and whatever that looks like. Can I save more for them? Can I do more for them? Can I enroll them in more activities? Can we give more to the church? Can we give more to somebody? My whys surround my values, which you've talked a lot about in this group, and you see me post about it often. But figure out what your why is and associate that why with the extra money. And this is why it's important. If you're just chasing 10 grand to chase it and you don't have a why, I would highly recommend you don't, because something else in your life is going to be sacrificed to chase the money without the why. And once you've established that why, I'd be very genuine about that and what that means to you. And is that for the betterment of your life, or is it going to turn you into something that you don't want to be? So take the time, exercise the why within your goal of 10 grand. Okay. Number 2, break the dollar amount into small bite-sized pieces. The easy math on that, let's just say it's 10 grand, that's $2,500 a week. Okay, if it's 20, it's 5 grand a week. Break it out in bite-sized pieces. What happens to us is we get focused on what we're doing, and whatever the revenue model we live in right now becomes our attention, and you feel like that's your capacity. Then you throw 10 grand on top of that. It's like, oh my God, how am I going to make that much money? If you can take it in small pieces, like we've always talked about, the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Break it into smaller goals, $2,500 a month. Or if you're looking to make 4 grand more, $1,000 a week, right? A little bit more, a little bit more. Sorry, I misspoke on that 2,500, but you get what I mean. If it's $2,500 a week, 4 weeks, that's 10 grand. If you only need to make 4 grand, that's $1,000 a week, because then you can start building your plan around that in the following steps, but it's got to be in bite-sized pieces. Otherwise, your mind's going to wander. You're going to make it feel like it's impossible for you. Hold on one second. Got a new member trying to find a link. Rachel, if I forward you an email, will you send him the link for tonight's call while I'm talking, please? Email. Okay. Number 3. I love doing this for myself. This is a great exercise. Identify ways you make money currently. So get your yellow pad out. You've got one, whatever it looks like. However you're building out your to-do list daily. Identify all the ways that you can make money. Spend some time with this, okay? That you're currently making money. So I got a job, I'm making 6 grand. I'm flipping some watches, some gold. Chris, I know you've got your great side hustle there. Identify the ways that you currently make money. And it might only be one item. It might be a whole bunch of things. But identify ways that you're currently making money. So when I look at my opportunities, I've got about 8 or 9 different ways that I can make money right now. And I self-admittedly, about more than half of them, I don't touch on a daily basis. And I know that there's opportunity there. And that's really where this conversation's stimulating from, again, is I'm looking around going, okay, I want to do some things for my kids. Where do we find that extra? Well, it's right in front of me. By the way, that's the title of Friday's podcast with Rod and I. The answer's right in front of you. Your answers could be right in front of you in terms of how you can make more money. You just haven't given it some attention. I'm looking at Chris, so I'll just use him as an example, is maybe Chris isn't spending a bunch of time on his jewelry business, watch business, et cetera, because he's super hyper focused on things that he's doing in his 9 to 5, whatever that looks like. All of a sudden, if he can shift a gear and shift some attention towards what he's currently doing to make money, he can increase his revenue. And I'll talk about it in a few minutes on how we can get to that. So number 3 was identifies ways you currently make money. Number 4 is identify ways you could make money. Things that you aren't doing right now, but things that you can do to make money. Easy example. We've talked about, Rod and I, about a flip it contest. And basically what that is, Chris, again, you'll probably appreciate this. You know, go to the thrift store, pawn shop, garage sales, buy something cheap, clean it up, flip it, make more money, right? That's a gross example of random ways you can make money. Now, you might have other opportunities that sit right in front of you. It might be you've got a side business that you haven't looked at for years, and all of a sudden it's like, well, you know what? I can revive that, and I could make money doing that, right? So now you've developed two lists, ways that you currently make money and ways that you could make money. Okay, so now you've got some lists that you can pull from to help achieve that goal. Number 5, and this is a really important factor in this, because if you go all the way back to number 1, which I'll repeat, I see Doug's on the call now. Number 1 was set the goal. What is your number and why? What is the amount of money? The why, that's why number 5 is so important, is be a student of your calendar and commit the time to doing this. If you really want to make the extra money and you have your why and those two things are aligned, now I want you to be a student of your calendar. What does that look like to you? If you're a online person, I can pull up my Google Calendar right now. And what I like to do, and what I'm going to recommend you do, is look at all the white space on your calendar. And if you're not really good about keeping your calendar, then I would suggest that you start looking at keeping a calendar and keeping it up to date, and fill it up with not only your business obligations, but your personal obligations as well. That way you don't forget about those things that are important, like your family time, things that you need to do, you know, in and around your house, or whatever that looks like. But by becoming a student of your calendar, you're going to start to find the gaps in your day where you could break into those opportunities to make money or increase the ways that you currently can make money. Now, what does that look like for me as a live example? I know that if I'm up between 4:30 and 5 getting my workout in, that I just bought myself 1 hour to 2 hours more per day to focus on something else. Because really, my work day for my current clients starts somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock. My kids are homeschooled now, so we're not trying to rush them out of the door at 7 a.m. So all of a sudden, by just getting up a little bit earlier, I bought myself some more time. When I look at my calendar, being a student of that, I have nothing between 5 and usually 10 a.m. So that tells me if I really want to increase my revenue per month, I've got a lot of hours every single day. And I'm not even talking about the weekends. I have a lot of hours to work with, especially when you add up those 4 weeks. But if I take it in a bite-sized piece, it's like, okay, I've got 5 days. I've got 2 extra hours a day. So that's 10 hours to make $2,500. Okay, that's a nice bite-sized piece. How do I utilize those extra 10 hours to focus on that money? Well, 10 hours a week could be easily a new marketing client. Could be a lot of things for those extra 10 hours just by being a student of my calendar. Again, dive into your digital calendar, utilize it. It's a great tool. Make sure you schedule your personal stuff as well. I don't want you chasing money, sacrificing your family time, and really the important things that your values consist of. All right, so number 5, be a student of your calendar and commit the time to doing this. If you really want to make the extra money, you have to commit the time. All right, number 6, build a plan around your money-making opportunities. So going back to number 3 and 4, which was identify ways you make money currently and identify ways you could make money. Build a plan around that. Now you've got the calendar. You found the spare time per week, whatever that looks like for you, in the mornings, in the evenings, in the morning. You know, going back to the story way back when I raised all the money for Azunia, if you remember me saying, or if you haven't heard it, I worked a very intense job as the vice president of Kettle One Vodka. It was easily a 60 to 70 hour a week job. It was a lot of flights. It was most of it was pre-iPhone. our great technology. So it wasn't like I could hop on the airplane and get all kinds of work done with my laptop and the internet. We didn't even have the internet on planes then. So I started writing a business plan to raise money for Azunia every evening after dinner, after it was bedtime, back to my computer and spent 2 hours a day for 6 months to build out a business plan that ultimately I raised $12 million off of. 5 million initial round, then another 7 over time. So it's something that I was passionate about. It was something that I wanted to do, and I was committed to making the time, and I became a student of my calendar that I had time for. So the plan that I built was, I'm going to write a business plan that is going to be intensive enough to raise the capital that I needed to start a company. And the number was $5 million. So from that plan to build out the business plan, the part 2 of that was, I'm going to hire somebody to polish that business plan so that it ensures my success on presenting that to investors. Now, during that 6 months of writing the business plan, early on, I started reaching out to people. Just, hey, how's it going? Hey, how's life? What do you got going over here? Hey, would you ever invest in something like this? Just slightly touching on those relationships that I had, knowing down the road, I would circle back and ask if they wanted to invest in this company. So literally, my first phone call and my first pitch, I raised $1 million. The next one I raised 5, and they asked me to remove the guy that pitched in $1 million. So I only took 3 meetings, and all 3 of them were a success. The third one jumped in with the other guys. It's because I built a plan of action around what my goal was and what I wanted to make. So whatever that plan looks like for you, build a plan around your money-making opportunities. Okay, finally, number 7. Commit to this for 90 days. Don't just jump in and get after it the next couple of weeks and go, I'm not sure this is going to work. Commit to it for 90 days. Follow these steps for 90 days, jump in, and I guarantee you at the end of 90 days, you're either going to be right where you want to be on the money, or you're building a plan out to get you where you want to be. And by the way, number 6, you have a great opportunity being a part of this community to reach out to myself or Rachel or Rod at any time during the week to help you build out that plan, to look at your opportunities, to see if that's something that makes sense from our perspective, an extra set of eyes, and to help you build out the plan with the tools we either give you on the back end of our website or the tools we might have that you just haven't asked for yet. So commit the 90 days, work the program, you'll see the results. I know already that if I committed the time, I'll be exactly where I need to be. And hey, you're going to be coming right into the Christmas season. It's a great way to launch 2024. We talk about, what 2024 more than likely is going to look like. It's a election year. Things are going to get hard. You're going to see the left hard pressing on, cost of living and all these other things. You're going to see the right promising all these, savior policies. But in the meantime, we're going to be suffering. So what we want to do is combat that. We want to combat that by getting after it early, building a plan around the extra money that you want to make. And I would say now is a great time to review what your revenue is, whether you're in business for yourself or personal. Look at what inflationary effects will have on your revenue as we get into 2024. Maybe it's not another 10 grand you want to make. Maybe you just need an extra 1,000 to stay ahead of inflation, or an extra $500 or whatever that number looks like. I would highly suggest in this last quarter that you look at what your revenue and what your projected revenue is going to be so that you can combat what happens in 2024. So I'm going to leave it at that. Those were my 7 points on how to make an extra 10 grand. The last thing I'm going to say is have faith over the fear. Okay. The process will work. And if you dive into Alex's book, he gives you all kinds of ways that you can build your own business through generation leads and things like that. If that's what you're after, again, you can listen to his podcast and hear the whole book chapter by chapter. So Rod, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And Rachel, actually, let's go to Rachel real quick because I think you got to jump in your car. So let's go to Rachel and then we'll get back to Rod.
I do. Thank you. I loved everything you said tonight and I agree with it. consistency is the most powerful thing for all of us, with our businesses and with our families, of course, too. I also live a lifestyle where I'm up super early in the morning. That's the only time as a single working mom. It absolutely is like the golden time to get things done and be productive. So I just wanted to second on those things and reemphasize them and their importance. I'm trying to teach those same values and principles to my daughter. She told me today that she has a goal of saying something nice to everyone in her class. And she's going to make a list so that throughout the year, she can make sure she said something nice to every single person. I'm like, that's amazing. Every day she's going to do one. I'm like, okay, like, look at that, setting a goal, and it's something that's meaningful to her. So I would say that as well for you guys, whether it's a business goal or a personal goal, writing it down, there's a lot of power in that. I live and die by my calendar. It's color coded. I have multiple calendars. It's very structured. And I optimized something this weekend that I'm going to share with you guys because I can't believe it took me this long to figure it out. Now, I don't know what all of your situations are in terms of work and personal and relationships and all of those things, but I have this color-coded kid calendar that gets published to all of the grandparents and extended family. It includes all of their sports practices and games and days off school and which parent they're with on which day and all those things. And I was doing it in Excel. I know it's like, I'm embarrassed to tell you, I've been doing it this way for 10 years. And it was manually done. And over the weekend, I upgraded it. I created a special Google Calendar that everyone subscribed to that's equally beautiful and color coded. And that way I only have to do it one time. So it's a better use of my time to populate it. And it's more updated for everybody else. So even the 80-year-old grandma is like real excited about it. And she feels like she's learning something new too. So you can always kind of optimize and make your system work a little bit better for you. And I did that because one of the moms in the National Charity League was like, oh yeah, like, give this a try. And so I love sharing new ideas. And I think the back end of Yes is a great place for that. If you uncover something new that is new to you, it's not that you're the last one to figure it out. It might be new to somebody else too. So I encourage you guys to share it on the back end of Yes. The color coded calendar thing, why didn't I just carry that over from my business to my personal? Like, it was such a light bulb moment. So there's that. The other thing is I'm learning a lot these days about AI. I mean, I am like really studying up on it. And there's a new note taker in the meeting today. You may have seen. It looks like Rachel's Fathom note taker. I'm going to send in the back end of Yes later tonight. There's a waiting list to get into Fathom. It's free. But it helps you record your calls and it helps you pull out snippets. It'll give you a recording, like all written, typed out, of all the captions of what was said, and it'll pull video clips and that you can use for social media. So, and it's free right now. And if I send you this link, I mean, I don't get anything for sending you my link, but it'll get you to the front of the line, so you don't have to wait in order to download it and give it a try. So I'll continue to share those types of learning tools with you, and please share those with me as you learn about those things too, because this is a really exciting time in technology and in marketing. And as we fine tune our lives and continue like maintaining the emphasis and the focus on our family and our values and those things, but also integrating and learning new things. So with that, I'm going to have to turn my camera off and I'm going to be driving, but I will be listening. So thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. As it relates to what she just brought up on AI, it reminds me too that Rachel and myself and Rod are constantly diving into new technologies or new ways to market, and we're experimenting with it. That's what we do with our time. So instead of you having to do those experiments, let us find the solutions for you. Don't be shy to ask. If you're thinking, hey, I want to dive into AI, what's the best app, or how can I use that, or how are you using it? What would you recommend? Please don't hesitate to reach out to us, because especially like I talked about, number 6, build a plan around your money-making opportunities. You can plug in what your opportunity is to AI, and it'll help you build the plan. And if nothing else, it's just like what I suggest when you're reading a book. If you're reading an entire book that you paid $12 for, and you got one sentence out of that book that changes your business dynamics, it was worth the $12 and all the time it took to read it. So if AI can generate a full report on something and you get a good sentence or two to build out your money-making opportunity, it was worth it. To give you an example of how I use AI today, I've got a candidate that I'm running his campaign for governor for the state of Montana right now. And we have our campaign bullet points that we'll say to the public, of course. Well, every day we're putting out a message on social media. So if let's just say one of those was, we want to be tough on crime. I can write into AI, I need a message to the public from a governor candidate about being tough on crime. AI will push back 10 bullet points on what we should say to the public on being tough on crime, all different. And if I don't like those 10, I could hit regenerate and it'll give me another 10. And I can just keep doing that and doing that. So a way that I use that is I'll take the 10, I'll drop it into a Word document, and then I'll read each one of them and I'll personalize the ones that fit closest to our voice and what we want to say to the public. But if you look at it this way, if I've got 10, I could personalize each one of them. And for the next 10 weeks, I could push one out per week. Now we've got a dozen campaign bullet points. So each one of those dozen bullet points, I'll do the same thing. Now I've got 120 bullet points to push out over the next however many weeks. Talk about content and getting help doing that. It's streamlining my work right now. So there is a lot of great ways that you can utilize AI technology to build out programs and different things that will help you get your job done faster, across the board. So don't hesitate to ask. Rachel's also doing some work right now on video technology where she can send this Zoom call into a company that will create 2 video posts a day for me with the words and everything, pennies on the dollar. Again, streamlining the work that we have to do to build up our content. So don't be afraid to use the tools or leverage us to do the homework for you. Rod, love to hear your thoughts.
Hey, thanks, Jim. I'll start with the AI just because I spent about 3 hours working with AI today. And I said working with, because once you get that engagement going, you really are driving the train, right? It's going down a track, but you get to shift gears and that sort of thing. So it doesn't drive you, you drive it. And that's just my point on that. So AI is a tool and you can use it to your advantage. And that will, like Jim just said, maximize your time and it will help you find more time. So I want to talk about 2 things real quick. And number 5, commit the time to do it. And Rachel mentioned, she's all about the calendar and finding the white space. And I'm going to give you one quick example. And this kind of goes to the podcast we did last week, Jim. It's kind of interesting. Back in the early 1990s, I got involved with the network marketing company. And I committed, after 3 months of sitting around looking at this thing, right, not making a decision, I committed to find 15 hours per week. And I was working between 50 and 60 hours a week, raising 3 young kids at the time. I found 15 hours a week, and I diligently worked this business for 2.5 years. And within a year, I plugged it in here just a second ago. It's interesting, your topic tonight, Jim. You said, how can you make $10,000 a month, right? Within the first year, at today's rate, right, because this was back in the 90s, I was making $5,000 a month on that 15 hours a week. And that translates into $11,694 in today's dollars. 15 hours of my spare time a week while I was working. And I was consistent. I was diligent. I didn't miss a beat. And after 2.5 years, I quit, and the residual income continued to pay me for another 7 years. So you can find the time, but if you don't find that time and commit to it, you're just wasting time. So you do have to commit that time and do it diligently. It will pay the rewards. That's just one real example, and you can do it. The other thing on that, I want to remind anybody who's out there and you're working a job, you're working for somebody else. If you're working your way up the corporate ladder, and I'll that'll be my caveat. If you want to stay there, continue there, and work your way up, sometimes you have to do that extra. They always say, be the first one there and the last one to leave. And I was never a proponent of that. If I was working for someone else, I worked my butt off, gave them 100% of my effort for that 8 hours, 9 hours, or 10 hours, whatever it happened to be. But the time before I clocked in and the time after I clocked out belonged to me. So if you're showing up to work an extra 20 minutes, 15 minutes early, and you're just shooting the breeze with the guys, or you're doing work for the boss you're not being compensated for, that's 15 minutes every day you can find right there. 15, 20 minutes a day. What can you do? What podcast can you listen to instead? Sit in your car until you're ready to go clock in and listen to a podcast and work on personal development, work on educating yourself. There are things you can do with that time that will turn into money. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to mention, Jim, you brought up the Flip It challenge that we did with the students at school. And this is right up Gary Vee's alley. For those of you who follow Gary Vee, there's all kinds of money. It's laying out there. It's like a treasure hunt. I right now, I'm not in a position to be able to go to garage sales or estate sales, but I'm telling you what, the problem I have when I've gone out to things like that, looking for things to find some extra things to flip, I've got more pieces of furniture in my house that I reconditioned was going to flip. And my wife fell in love with them. I fell in love with them. There are things that I found that I had value. Something I got for 20 cents that was worth $40 brand new in the box, I could have flipped. And I fell in love with it and kept it anyway. If you spend that 15 minutes on your way to work and you jump at a garage sale or an estate sale, instead of going to work early, find something of value and put it on Facebook Marketplace or eBay. You can have an arbitrage business on the side. And believe me, you can make a lot of money doing it. So it really is looking for those opportunities, Jim, finding the time and being committed, exactly like you said. So, and I really love your last point, commit to it for 90 days. I'm telling you, you will change your lifestyle if you commit to anything for 90 days. So highly encourage you. Great topic, great hook at the beginning, Jim. And it's doable for everybody on this call.
So thanks, Rod. Appreciate that. So I just want to touch on a few other things, by the way. So many of you know I worked with David Meltzer for a period of time as my own coach. And, David gets $2,500 a month as a business coach. We're not teaching anything different here than what he taught me or the things that he worked on with me, right? These things seem basic, but it's how hard do you want to listen? How much are you willing to pay to hear what they're saying? Being a student of a calendar, that came directly from Dave, and Dave taught me how to look at my calendar and build it out. And over the years, especially with kids and lifestyle change, that calendar changes, but understanding where your time is at and where you can capture the time to find, that extra money that you're looking for. That's what this discussion's about. It also works, by the way, if you feel like you're super busy and you haven't committed enough time for your family, it works that way too, where you need to schedule in your time with your family so that you are following your values and you're aligned with everything happening at home. So don't be afraid to be a student of your calendar. The thing about the bullet points tonight, these are all approaches that other people have taken, other people have said. But what I always realize is that I need to be reminded, me personally, not you, but me personally, I need to be reminded often how I get to the next level. And that's why reading this Hormozi book recently, there's nothing new in there either. I mean, I read it and I was talking to Rachel about it this morning, who's a marketing expert. My wife would probably say the same thing, is when he starts walking through on how to get leads, how to do social media. These are all things we know already, but it's in a format, a step-by-step. Here's what you got to do. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Or, oh yeah, I haven't been doing that. Or more importantly is I lack the discipline to do that for any period of time. That's why if you really want to make an extra 10 grand or 10 grand a month, commit for 90 days and you'll get there. Okay, I'm going to bring up one more topic. If you've got questions on anything, as you know, please bring them up. You can put them in the chat box and I'll answer them. Rod can answer them. If you want to raise your hand and ask it live, raise your hand. If you got something to share, would love to hear from you. I'll buy you a couple minutes here on the other topic for tonight, and that was professional alignments. Now, we've said it before, Rod has done an awesome job about giving us topics for the next 24 months, the things to talk about if something doesn't come up. Well, something came up tonight, so I did my 7 ways to make 10K. But tonight's assignment was professional alignments. And, you know, when I talked about spending that 6 months building my business plan, I knew I needed to align with some people on day one at some point in the future. And I know everybody says, hey, it's good to keep your contact list hot and, you know, reach out to people, you know, on occasion. Well, this goes back to if you build a plan, you know what your values are, you know where you're going, what your 1-year plan is, what your 5-year plan is. Now, with intent, you can keep your professional alignments warm. You know that, hey, down the road, I'm probably going to need this particular relationship. I don't want it to go cold on me. I want to stay tight with this person because not only do I respect them, but somebody I want to do business with, I'm probably going to need them down the road. So keep that in mind as your professional alignments that you have now or you've had in the past that you may have to rekindle could bring help along the way as you build out your plans and your business relationships. I feel the same way about this group. When I look at the people in this group, I want to align with as many of you as possible. And there's several people on the call tonight that I've done stuff with because we're part of a community. I want to work with people that are in this group because we're aligned, and I want to be able to bring value to you. And just a quick thank you to Bruce, who offered something. He came down and did a safety clinic for a client of mine and brought value to that client for me. And there's some value exchange for Bruce, but it was great to have somebody to reach out to and align with and build that professional alignment, right? So don't forget about your alignments and don't just jump in when you need it, okay? You always want to bring value up front in case you have to ask later. And if you don't ever have to ask, hopefully you've built a great relationship. So, all right. Questions, comments? Chris, you sent me a direct message. I'm not going to call you out, but hey, I would recommend that if you're not a student in your calendar, jump in. It's not easy. I hate scheduling my calendar because the second I put something on there, I know that day's lost. But there's a reward on that too, by the way. Today I took a meeting. It was supposed to be an hour. It wound up being 2.5 hours. And it was with a woman that is she's the tip of the spear for child sex trafficking in California and Montana. And it was just incredible to hear her story and what she's doing. So, giving up some calendar time to somebody, I learned a lot, and hopefully I can help make a difference in what she's doing. So, does Fathom Video work for our interface with podcasts? I think it might help me. Yes, it does. And I would connect with Rachel on that, Bruce, and ask her specifically, because just like she said, it's recording this call, just like it would record a podcast call. Okay. I haven't downloaded the technology yet, but we've talked about ways on how we're going to use it. Sam, go ahead.
Hey guys. Anyways, mine's just kind of a win this week, and I didn't even really look at it as a win until today. As I wasn't rushing to get my kids up to go to school and all the crazy that most people in the world are doing. And anyways, I made a comment to Jim on yesterday, Sunday, and I'm like, gosh, I've hated Sundays or dreaded Sundays my whole life. It started as a kid. I grew up, my parents were divorced before I was even born. And every Sunday night at 6, we switched houses. It was always stressful, like a mediator to be there to switch houses. And it was always crazy. And so I always had this just a hate. It was a hate for Sundays. Then the older I got, I worked, 9 to 5 jobs, Monday through Friday. And here comes Sunday again, right? You got to get ready for the work week. And I've done these exercises with Jim. And the reason I have my own business and have the freedom and stuff is because they do work. But yesterday we were sitting outside and I'm like, gosh, I've disliked or hated even at one point Sundays in my life. And it was really cool to feel like I'm at a freedom spot in my life where I'm not a victim to Monday morning, 8 o'clock, get back after it, right? Or even going as far as homeschooling my kids right now. We made a huge leap, which not all days are good. I threatened public school to my kids today. Like, if you don't get this together, you're going to public school and you're not going to like the one you got to go to. But just these exercises really, truly do work, and makes you not have to be a victim to the Monday if that's what you don't want to do, or that Sunday night anxiety leading into the week. So I appreciate everything you, Rachel, and Rod do on these calls, and there's a big win. So thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. Before I go to you, Bruce, real quick, obviously I have the pleasure of spending my days with Samantha. I think she had a second win yesterday that she didn't identify. And so we were coming back from church, and this weekend is our gun show in the Valley here. And she got a random call that kids answered, or I did, and handed her the phone. She's like, "Who's that?" I said, "Oh, some lady." A woman was calling Samantha to ask her where she was at, because Samantha in the past had a very successful booth at the gun show selling her apparel that she created from scratch almost 4 years ago. She created a brand that eventually evolved into a marketing company. And this woman was tracking Samantha down to find out where she was at so she could buy something, and I was just baffled, like, how did she get your cell phone number? And this woman had been all over Sam's website and didn't see her, wanted to find out if she was okay. So it's a lot like the podcast that I created. When I don't do a show, I create a vacuum. People are looking for that show. Samantha created a business, and she created a vacuum because there's a void now, because she had a customer base that she built up. So I think you would be amazed at the things, everybody on this call, that you've created that other people look forward to, or count on, or desire. So like I said earlier, it could be right in front of you, and it might just take a little bit more to get you over that hump that you're looking for. Bruce, go ahead.
Hey, Jim, thanks. A couple months ago, I indicated I might have a different way of going, and I want to basically try to sell my training services to a higher end clientele. I've identified at least one of those potential people I want to do that, make that pitch to. My question is in terms of mechanics. How will I, or what do you think is the most effective way to establish contact and get in front of these folks? I don't want to just do an email because it'll be ignored. Do I show up unannounced and say, "Hey, this is who I am, and I'd like to have a chat with you"? Do I try to do it through a talk? What's the system that gives me or what do you think might give me the best possibility of success?
Yeah, it's a good question, Bruce, because, with a lot of brands, we're looking for a top shelf opportunity. I know in my tequila company, we had our everyday stuff. The most expensive one in that tier was $40. And then we jumped to a luxury category of $125 for a bottle. What you're talking about is elevating your business to a caliber of client that can afford to do something very eclectic and obviously generate a little bit more revenue for you. What happens is, as you move up that chain of value, the personal touch points become more important. Now, I wouldn't say an email is a bad thing, but it needs to be a personalized email. Okay, it needs to be heartfelt, genuine, authentic, and more than likely coming from a referral or some type of foundational element of how you got in touch with them. And so there's a few ways that you can attack that. One is you can start reaching out to friends, myself, Rod, maybe even Rachel as far away as California, maybe some other people on this call. Like, look, this is what I'm offering, and it needs to be crystal clear. This is what I'm offering. This is what's different about it. This is what it's going to cost. And by the way, here are my credentials. I would appreciate it if you knew somebody that fit this niche right here. If I were to get a referral from you, then you start getting some warm leads. I could probably give you a few myself to say, "Hey, this is somebody I think you should talk to." So then you can approach it a couple ways. You can say, "Well, could you give me an email introduction or a text message introduction or a phone call introduction?" That way it becomes a warm meeting between you and that potential client. Always keep in mind too, as your price goes up, you have to touch less clients, right? So it's worth your time and effort and energy to go after a high net worth individual, right? But keep in mind, your materials need to match your price point, your demand. So if you're going to teach $1,000 class, and I don't know what your numbers are, but let's just say if everyday class is $100 and you want to jump to $1,000, you better either have a landing page that matches that, communication that matches that, more than likely followed up with a handwritten note that matches that, personal phone calls, respect of the time, the calendar, all those things that match that big jump up in price. And I think just knowing what you do and the caliber of training that you have, I think you can get that. Okay. You're just gonna have to be diligent about chasing those clients, but look at your entire brand portfolio and make sure that that matches what you're trying to do first. Because the last thing you want to do is reach out to somebody that can pay $1,000, like it's nothing for a couple hours worth of your time. And then they start looking at your website like, wow, it looks like a 25-cent website here, and I'm not saying that that's what yours looks like, but everything has to align with what you're trying to accomplish. And maybe you have your website that you have currently for those clients, and you build a landing page over here for the high end ones, so maybe you approach it 2 different ways, or you combine it. That's up to you, but there's 2 approaches. But I would say chase after referrals first, integrate yourself. I know you're going to a high-end event down there with us for the Trump Reagan Lincoln dinner. Could be a great opportunity to network with some people that could look for somebody like your services. They're already paying $100 for a ticket. They're there to spend money. That's where you can probably generate some warm leads there as well. So hopefully that helps. Yep. Okay. Riley.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
We got you good. Thank you.
Okay. So I am an entrepreneur, and as some of you know, I've talked to you, Jim, and Sam some about how I was offered this really great opportunity and everything, and they've kind of been like, well, we have some things that we need to work out. We have some we have to get everybody together to kind of discuss what we want to do. But they approached me. It's a really great opportunity, but the struggle I'm having now is that they've been in touch with me consistently since about almost 3 weeks ago. I think that we initially had this conversation that they approached me about, and they've consistently stayed in touch, but we still don't have an answer. And I'm feeling like maybe we're at a point, because when they originally came to me, they were like, hey, we want to know if you're interested in this, because we have people all the time that are interested in jobs with us, but they're not serious. Would you actually be interested in this? And I was like, yeah, I'm interested in having any conversation, and I really like this company and stuff. But now I feel like they're the ones dragging their feet, and I'm at trying to figure out at what point do maybe I bridge that gap. Hey, we're going into 3 weeks now. You told me you were going to get back to me in a week. I know you've been in contact every other day or every day about, hey, we're still working on it. So I'm trying to figure out how to bridge that gap. And I had a meeting with Sam last week, and she brought up a good point to me, is hey, this is going to be an indicator of how their interworkings are. And so I also want to have that conversation, because they're kind of a startup company, and I really feel like even though they're bringing me into one role, that maybe they could use some help in some other ways. And I'm just trying to figure out, do I bridge that gap? Do I wait for them? What is the best way to approach this?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I had a little bit of a heads up on this. And of course, I know the history because you took the time to call, and I appreciate that too. Just because it was a little bit hard to hear you, I want to just give an overview to everybody that's listening, because it's really a great question, and it's a great observation from your point, and I think that you'll appreciate the answer, and I think it'll bring value to everybody. So overall, as Riley said, she's an entrepreneur with her current company. She was approached by some long-term friends, colleagues that own a very successful, I would say kind of a startup company, but they've had enough success so they don't feel so much like a startup, and they want to hire her. And they even told her a little bit about what that job might consist, maybe even a little bit of a salary range. And here's her dilemma, right? She's waiting. It's been several weeks. They still contact her. They still tell her we're interested, but yet nothing's happened. So Riley, here's the approach that I would recommend. And This is exactly what I did with Kettle One Vodka and how I landed the job as the vice president there. You know, companies, especially I would say in this marketplace, that see quick success, like this particular one you're referring to, Flag Nor Fail, who I consulted for and Sam did some work with, and many others have the same example. Jim, maybe even Kush Brands. For whatever reason, they took off without a formal infrastructure and the right amount of people in play to keep track with that business. So you've got some very innovative leaders making a ton of money, seeing the success from that, and trying to grab people along the way to help. But as you all know, especially if you've been in any type of management role or if you've been an entrepreneur, it requires a lot of work to train somebody. First of all, it takes even more work to train them, but build their job description out. And it takes even more work as an entrepreneur to go, okay, what is the title of this job? What do I need them to do exactly? Then I got to build out the job description. I probably should do some HR magic. And then I've got to train this person, right? So their barrier to market right now is about 2 to 4 steps, depending on how thorough they want to be in hiring you, Riley. It doesn't mean they don't want you. And I'm sure that that's why they've continued to stay in touch with you. What it means is their business is outpacing their infrastructure. And so what I did at Kettle One is I met the owner and the president on a Friday. And they said, we would love to have somebody like you on our team. Can you meet on Monday? We're not sure what the role looks like. It's marketing. We want to increase business. We want to be on television and the movies. You know, we'll talk about it on Monday. Well, I took the entire weekend to build out a plan. So when I sat in front of them on Monday, I said, hey, this is what our discussion looks like on paper. This is how I can help you. This is what that looks like. This is how it starts. And here's where we go from here. By the way, if I'm missing the mark 100%, I'd love to hear your ideas. Well, they didn't have any ideas for me in that particular occasion, but they hired me anyhow, and they liked what I had to say. But I never even did a single one of those items because we built the plan as we went once I got on board and learned a little bit more about their culture. Now, as a consultant, I'm challenged with what you're challenged with every single day I take on a new client. They don't know what they want. They just know they need help. They know that their business is outpacing their resources, or they know they're not making the money they need to make, and they're looking for help to identify that. So my advice to you, you've done enough research on this particular type of job in other industries or in the same industry, but not for this company. I would suggest you write your own job description. You write your own salary range based on what they've indicated. You write your own parameters of what the job looks like for you, especially after your conversation with Samantha on Friday, because this could be indicative of their challenges. And you might get sucked into a whole bunch of other tasks. You might say, look, here's what I can do for you. Here's the job description based on what we've talked about. Here's the salary amount. And by the way, I think that this salary matches this job description pretty good. So I'd love to accept a job that looks something like this. Now, if you need more, let's talk about what that looks like added on to this or separately, or does that require a little bit more on the negotiation front of the salary, time, and energy? Okay. But do the work for them, make it easy for them to bring you in and start doing a job for them. And I wouldn't wait for them. So get aggressive with it and just say, hey, look, I thought I'd take the liberty to write out a job description and what that looks like for you guys. I guarantee you they'll be blown away and pleased with what you've done. So Rod, did you want to weigh in on that, or did I give the answer you're going to give?
You know, the problem, Jim, is you and I always think alike. And my whole line of thinking was write your own job description and take it to them.
Yep.
I mean, it's that simple, but you have to take charge and be the person who writes it out. And it's just like writing a business plan. Even though you're an entrepreneur, you still get to do what entrepreneurs do, which is write the plan. So writing the job description is writing your plan in this case. So yeah, absolutely spot on. Same advice.
And Riley, I guarantee you, if you wrote out the bullet points, you plugged it into Nova AI, it'll write that job description for you. I had somebody ask me for a job description the other day that I didn't have any templates for it. So I plugged it into AI and I sent him a 2-page job description for a sales team member selling beer and wine in Southern California. Instantly, it popped out, and I read through. I was like, okay, I could use this. So, all right, we got about 3 minutes left. Any other questions? Anything else I can bring value to? Would love to give you the, whatever time you need. If not, if you're new to the group, we've got our community on the back end. I would highly recommend you utilize that, get to know each other. We're all here. Like I said, this is a community to work with one another. If you need me, Rod, or Rachel, get a hold of us. We'd love to help you. We'll jump on a call. Almost everybody on this phone call tonight, I've been on a personal call with, and we're here for you. Next week, Rod, that's you, right? Yeah, thank you. And then, by the way, if you haven't heard our podcast, search on any platform. The answer is yes. And it's predominantly Rod and I talking about for about 15 minutes, very relevant business discussions. Sometimes it's an extension of what we're talking about here. So the work doesn't get done unless you do it, but we want to help you with that. Don't be afraid to reach out. And remember, our 7 points tonight: commit 90 days if you really want to make the extra money. And 10 grand is a little bit arbitrary. If it's $2,000, if it's 200, whatever it looks like, do the work. You'll be happy that you did. If nothing else, you might discover that, you know what? I don't need the money as much as I need the values and the time with my family. So that was a good exercise. I like where I'm at. I'm going to scrap the whole thing and enjoy your holidays. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. We're here for you if you need us. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.